Warning. Absolutely everything I'm about to talk about is beyond sickening, disgusting, and vile to its very core. Okay, I'm done selling you the movie. Let's jump in!
Should I suck your dick now?
The Butterfly Effect is a 2002 suspense movie that has been a favorite of mine over the years. Not because it's good. In fact, it's so mean-spirited and bad that most critics hated it, and most of my friends couldn't even stomach it. Yet, somehow over the years, it's become a complete fascination of mine. It's just so over-the-top ridiculous and offensive, and is produced with such unabashedly poor taste that I can't help but find myself being impressed with it. Throw Ashton Kutcher into the mix, and we've officially traveled into the kind of flagrant insanity that makes me positively giddy. So let's explore what makes this one a classic in the realm of movies that miss the mark in intensely entertaining ways. Before we continue, consider smashing that subscribe button if your taste in movies runs as black as mine. And possibly a like if you want to egg me on to keep watching this. We begin our story with Ashton Kutcher as a child, detailing the many traumas that plagued his youth. And yes, I'll be calling him Ashton throughout this essay because I don't remember the character's name, and regardless of what the writer named this character, he'll always be Ashton to me. Anyways, Ashton is plagued by a most unfortunate childhood, the victim of a string of tragic events that go on to define the pain and misery he feels as a young adult. And they don't really hold back with said trauma either, offering up bleak episode after bleak episode. These traumatic scenes are as impressively over the top as a death scene in Final Destination. It's as if the writer were thinking, what is the most sensitive subject we can dive into, all while offering the least amount of tact possible when exploring these subjects? And boy howdy, he's got all of it. Kiddie porn dungeons? Check. Accidental death of a mother and her newborn? Also check. A makeshift BBQing of the family dog? And so on and so forth. Mind you, we're just getting started. These are all contained within the first 20 minutes of the film, and they're not even the craziest parts of the movie, but they do serve to set the tone of needlessness, which, to be completely honest, is something I vaguely respect. It's utterly tone-deaf in its portrayals of childhood trauma, and yet the writer goes there every single time, as if loudly proclaiming to his audience with a proud middle finger pointed to their faces, "Fuck you, kid. I'm doing that, so strap yourself in." Now that we've set the stage, this movie was written by Eric Bress and J. Mackie Gruber, who together co-wrote Final Destination 2, in case you need any clearer explanation as to why the writers had such a hard-on for depravity. Apparently, they wrote the script as early as 1995, but had trouble marketing it because, quote, it was too dark. They had been exploring the idea of chaos theory and wanted to make a movie that explored that subject in relation to trauma. They certainly got the chaos part down, because as far as consistent time travel rules are concerned, this one is pure randomness. But I agree, this is a cool idea to explore in a film. It's just too bad we had to see it from the people responsible for this death right here. Don't get me wrong, a piece of cinematic genius as far as deaths are concerned. The main premise of the film, the redeeming factor that saves this movie from being little more than exploitation porn, is the highly stylized superpower Ashton discovers when reading his childhood diary. This Marvel-like ability gives him the power to travel back to the traumatic times he's written about. So, for example, when he reads about the unfortunate basement experience he had as a kid, whoosh, we're right back to the CP dungeon. At first, Ashton thinks this is a vivid memory he's forced to relive. But eventually he comes to realize that by going back to these memories, he can alter his own life's timeline. He gives himself a cigarette burn in the past. When he returns to the present, the scar is still there. The one line that really stuck with me in a positive way in this film, and the single piece of genius that I could take out of the writing, is uttered right here.
If I can make scars, do I have the power to heal them? What about Kaylee's scars?
As it turns out, yes, albeit with rules that are weird and inconsistent. But we'll get there soon enough. The crux of the time travel dilemma comes down to Amy Smart's character. She is confronted by Ashton about the horrible childhood they both experienced, and this re-examination of the past is so traumatizing that she commits unalive over it.
She killed herself tonight.
And if you're listening to this tape, you're one of the reasons why.
Ashton is devastated. I admit that I was as well. So Ashton decides to use his time-altering abilities to change the course of Amy Smart's destiny, fixing her deepest childhood wound, the Kitty dungeon.
Listen close then, bag.
Bag. When he is awoken from this flashback, he is no longer cohabitating with his charismatically homicidal goth roommate. Nope, now he's in bed with none other than his previously self-deleted childhood sweetheart, Amy Smart. The changes he's made to his timeline put them together as the most popular kids on their college campus. They're both frat kids now. Or sore kids? Sore girls? What is the frat equivalent for sorority chicks? This portion of the movie is yet another main reason I love it. For all of its sordid content, it still can't shy away from the early 2000s college is the ultimate endless party aesthetic that defined my teenage years so perfectly. The outfit they've chosen for Ashton is incredible. The way that his douche frat bros act is right on the money. And best of all, they couldn't help but include a scene where Ashton Kutcher acts like Ashton Kutcher for a few goofy seconds.
Alpha, beta, gamma, delta, epsilon, zeta, eta, theta, iota, kappa, lambda, mu, nu, xi, omicron, pi, rho, sigma, tau, epsilon, phi, chi, psi, omega, sir.
The cultural landscape is really the main culprit for the existence of this movie. We all thought college ruled, that Jackass was hilarious, and the trauma we all experienced as kids could all be solved with simple mall metal. This movie really reflects all of that so perfectly in several key moments, and this is one of them. However, things take a dark turn when Ashton is confronted by Amy Smart's brother, Tommy, the dog-murdering psycho, who in this timeline took the brunt of their father's psychological and physical abuse. This butterfly effect leads Ashton to that moment of confrontation, where Tommy expresses his feelings about Ashton and Amy's relationship.
You got nice friends, not to mention you're f***ing my sister. Not a bad piece of ass if I say so myself.
Shut up, Tommy!
As you can see, he has some reservations about it, leading him to the conclusion that he should confront them with his trusty metal pipe sidearm. Unfortunately, Tommy does not know that Ashton is a higher-ranking character than him, and thus possesses the steel weapon ability. He pulls this ability off flawlessly, using the weapon to play whack-a-mole on Tommy's head with a flawless fatality. Unfortunately, the police do not see this act of self-defense in the same heroic light that Ashton does, and he is hauled off to prison for murder. By the way, even if you commit murder, before you're convicted, you don't get immediately filed away to the grimiest federal prison facility, especially if the act is possibly considered self-defense. But we've arrived at my second favorite part of the movie. It's completely gratuitous in its representation of life in prison, and contains all of the stereotypes that make my black little heart beam with delight. The second Ashton is booked, he is immediately hounded by what Shawshank Redemption might refer to as
Bull quest.
I don't know if that's an offensive term or not, but it's literally the closest description I have to describe the inmates in this movie. They're also Nazis, so that's fun. I'm not sure why they're going so hard on a fellow white brother here, but evidently they have it out for Ashton. They make a reasonable offer to Ashton about which way he'd like his prison experience to go.
Get on my dick, put on my neck.
And it's at this moment that Ashton becomes acutely aware that his use of soap should be done with extreme caution from now on. So Ashton begins to wonder, can I butterfly effect my way out of this one? And so Ashton decides to use his superpowers to make a big impression on his extremely Christian cellmate. And this is the part of the movie where the rules of time travel not only start to break down, but literally don't make sense whatsoever. Here, Ashton uses a flashback to stab holes through his hands.
Oh, Mrs. Boswell.
For some reason, this does not butterfly affect its way through his timeline. Rather, he is in exactly the same circumstance that he was before, but now he has 2 holes in his hands, revealing the wounds of Christ. The cellmate might have been impressed by this quote-unquote miracle. I, however, was not at all amused. Oh, suddenly the tiniest flap of a wing isn't enough to alter the entire course of a personal history? It just leaves a tiny marking? Really? Also, why do these scars just appear in this timeline? Wouldn't they have been a permanent part of this timeline where he's always had them due to his changes in the past? Now they just magically appear at the exact time he needed to prove something to his cellmate? F***ing preposterous and offensively stupid. The absolute low point of the movie for me. The prison scene comes to a close as Ashton convinces his cellmate to help him recover the stolen pages of his diary. And this leads to one of the funniest scenes in the entire movie. The one where Ashton tries to cozy up to the Nazis. I have to say, growing up on That 70s Show, Hearing Ashton deliver such vulgar and racist sentiments, even if it's in an attempt to save his own ass in prison, was really funny to me.
But I think I get how things work. Either join a gang or you're dead. Well, I sure as fuck ain't joining up with no spics or niggers.
Whoa, 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 Ashton, pump the brakes, pal.
Is your blood pure?
Why no?
Oh boy, you should be glad your human resources person was not around to hear that.
He even adds this cherry to the sundae.
Should I suck you now?
Yeah, this should be the only scene that is included in his demo reel when attempting to get other roles from that point on. It's peak acting, at least as far as Ashton Kutcher is concerned. Every time I'm having a bad day, I just remind myself, there was a movie where Ashton Kutcher went there. And it's just as hilariously offensive as you'd expect. Anyway, Ashton is able to steal the pages to his journal back, thus reacquiring his time-traveling abilities. But, once again, the timeline does not pan out in the way he wants it to. It doesn't leave tiny little holes in his hands, changing one tiny little element of his life. Again, inconsistent rules, which really piss me off. So he tries again, and once again, his efforts to yield a better future do not pan out the way that he expects. In one future, he's turned Amy Smart into a wounded, heroin-addicted hooker who bangs men in a seedy apartment, which also includes one of my favorite lines from the movie.
I knew you were coming. I would have cleaned the stains off the sheets.
I mean, the effortlessness of which this movie delivers degenerate bangers, early 2000s poetry. In yet another timeline, Ashton accidentally wounds himself by blowing off his arms in the baby mom mailbox scheme, thus losing Amy to his best friend romantically, as he's forced to live his life as a cripple while the two of them have sex on a bed right next to him. Yeah. And finally, Ashton creates a future in which he ends up in a psych ward due to the extensive brain damage he's given himself while creating multiple timelines inside of his brain. So, his brain is overwhelmed with memories of this new timeline, which also doesn't make sense, because even when the information is downloaded into his brain, he still seems confused about it rather than having these memories as a central part of his neurochemistry. So how does that even work? Do you have your original body when you butterfly effect your way into a new future and then the info is downloaded into your brain? Or do you have a new body that's been shaped by the new timeline and thus your brain has now stored those memories? Wouldn't that mean you now have no memory of previous timelines because of this? I have so many questions, all overwrought and pointless. The writer didn't think of any of these answers, so why should I? Let me know in the comments below if I'm missing something, because I am genuinely confused. At the end of all of this, Ashton is left with one final solution. No, not that final solution. We're no longer rolling with the Nazi crew. But he realizes one surefire way to not ruin Amy Smart's life with his constant time travel. He needs to make sure they've never met to begin with. So he goes back to the day they met, and he whispers this sweet nothing in her ear.
I hate you, and if you ever come near me again, I'll kill you and your whole damn family.
You got a lot of anger in you, kid.
You're damn right.
Huh. Well, that's definitely one way to end a friendship. This strategy works, as Amy runs from him and their friendship never takes form. Suddenly, the world is all nice and happy, and no one suffers any trauma. Things are all fine and dandy. Which, of course, also doesn't make any sense because Amy's dad is still a pedo and her brother's still a psycho. Yet, somehow, the movie reaches the determination that the common denominator for all of Amy Smart's trauma was Ashton Kutcher. Not the pedo dad, not the psycho brother, Ashton. So what is the moral of this story? I'm kind of at a loss. Maybe it's, don't make friends with people in the past, lest you hurt them in the future. No, that doesn't sound right. Oh, wait, I know. Maybe it's, trauma can't be solved with changes to the past. Except for the fact that all their trauma is fixed by changing the past. I've got nothing. This movie, honestly, isn't really saying anything. Other than, hey, here's Ashton Kutcher saying the N-word.
Sure as fuck ain't joining up with no spics or niggers.
Anyway, this movie, for all of its flaws, is still an amazing achievement. There are very few movies that are this ugly and mean-spirited, and that's why it never fails to put a smile on my face. It takes guts to be that crass. Well played, Ashton. Well played. Anyway, that just about does it for this week's episode of The Rocking Horror Picture Show. Let me know how you felt about the butterfly effect in the comments below. Until next time, I'm your host, Sleeve T, and as always, I'm doing just fine. What's up, everybody? It's your boy, Sleeve T. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode of the Rocking Horror Picture Show. If you want to support this new twisted little channel, check out my Patreon in the link below. It's going to have all of the episodes uncensored, plus you'll be supporting my work, and thus I'll add you to the credits at the end. Hope I'll see you guys next week, and until then, rock and roll.